are still big names on the list that you put together for the Athletic. It's almost all pitching. So I figure we start there. Framber and Gallen, Framber Valdez, Zac Gallen. What do you think? Where do you see these markets shoring up? And do you have any teams in mind for them?
Yeah, so let's start with Framber Valdez because he's the best pitcher on the market, and this is a guy at 32 years old that is consistent, got tremendous ground ball ability here, can also miss bats, has proven he can pitch on the biggest stage in the biggest moments. Yes, he comes with a little bit of baggage for crossing up the catcher, which teams wanted to kind of understand. But the market has kind of fallen for him, and the market wasn't what he was expecting. He was expecting a long-term deal with a 5 or 6 year type of deal, and it's just not there for him. And so now, what does he do? Does he get a short-term deal with opt-out? So it's been kind of fascinating watching Framber. Of all the free agents out there, he's the one that's it's kind of puzzling how he doesn't have a home yet. Now, when I talk to GMs throughout the sport, everybody over the weekend kept telling me he'll probably end up in Baltimore. Everybody thinks he's going to end up there. But we're kind of waiting on Framber to understand that the offers on the table is all he's going to get. Like, there's not going to be more money. There's not going to be more years. So why wait longer? I don't know. But I will say this: he fits with so many teams. The problem is a lot of teams don't want to spend the money. He fits for the Giants. I mean, to put him at the top of the rotation with Logan Webb and Robbie Ray makes a lot of sense when they're trying to get a wild card spot. I think he fits with Detroit because I think eventually they're going to have to trade Skubal between now and the trade deadline. The Phillies, I think, after losing out on Bassitt, why not try to get Valdez on a short-term deal to replace Ranger Suarez, because you don't know for sure what Wheeler's going to look like coming off the IL. You don't know if Nola's going to have a bounce-back year, or if Andrew Painter, another year away from Tommy John, is going to live up to the potential. So he's a fit there. And Atlanta was kicking the tires on Valdez as well. So those are kind of the five teams that I keep hearing. But everybody in the industry thinks eventually he goes back to Baltimore. But they're kind of downplaying it too. They're like, you know what? Zach Eflin's, the last medicals on him were really good. We feel good about our five-man rotation. But I still think probably, Scotty, that's the spot he ends up based on what everybody's telling me.
Now, the Dodgers, we assume, are probably out of this. So what team, if it becomes a short-term Dodgers type of, hey, we're going over the top for a 1-year type of contract, what team do you feel like comes to the forefront then of the ones that you mentioned for Framber?
If I was a guess, I would guess the Phillies, just because Dave Dombrowski's always been about the star players. That's how he has built all his teams. Dave's going to go to the Hall of Fame someday, right? And he won a world championship in Boston and Detroit, and he had Montreal with a tremendous record when he was there. Took the Marlins to a world championship. He's trying to win one there in Philadelphia now. He knows how to do it, and he does it with star players. So I think, if the market completely falls for him, I can see Dave. Look, if Dave had the kind of money to land Bichette, if that was available to him, I can see him jumping in at the last minute. So outside of Baltimore, I would guess Philadelphia. Although I'll tell you, if I'm in San Francisco or Detroit, I'd be in there too.
I want to switch gears here to another pitcher, Zac Gallen. I talked about a little bit earlier with the crew here. I'm surprised. Another kind of guy where I thought he still has a couple more years left in the tank. I thought he'd get picked up rather quickly. You think about a Yankee team who's going to be struggling this year, especially in the beginning of the year with a couple guys that are down. He always pitches well in Queens. Like, do you see him in the Northeast? Like, what have you been hearing about Zac? A Jersey guy, too, as well.
Yeah, he is, Todd Father. Look, he's another Scott Boras client, so he's going to go wherever the best offer is. That's what most Boras clients do. You have to keep in mind, Arizona really does want to bring him back, and Arizona is the only team where he's not tied to draft pick compensation. Now, part of the problem with Gallen, as you guys know, is he didn't have a good platform year. He went backwards. The stuff wasn't quite the same, and so the question has to be, was it mechanics? Was it health? Was it the pressure of being on a free agent contract? Which one of those three was it? And I think every team has to kind of figure out what that is. But I will say this, I've been told that he has a robust market. And besides Arizona, I've heard Atlanta, Baltimore, San Francisco, Detroit, and quote unquote more. So there's a lot of market out there. And, the Boras Corporation right now, Gallen is their number one free agent left. So they're dealing with that, and they're dealing with the arbitration case of Skubal. So Gallen, though, is next on their checklist. So, I anticipate something probably happening maybe as early as the end of this week. If I was a betting person, it would be go back to Arizona on a 2-year deal with an opt-out after year one. The idea is let me get him 2 years in case he gets injured or has another down year to protect him. But let me get him back on the market next year when he's not tied to draft pick compensation. So if I had to bet, that's where Gallen goes back.
JB, talk to us about evaluation. Evaluating Zac Gallen. When you were a GM, you didn't have all this analytics. You had a radar gun, you had your scout's eyes, and you had the results of what the hitters did. If that's all we had today, and I know they have so much more to evaluate, guys, how do you evaluate what Zac Gallen did in 1 year when the 5 previous years, you're talking about $100 to $150 million pitcher?
Yeah, that's a great question. So let me give you my GM territory angle here. So as a GM, what I would do is I would be calling in all of my pitching people, right? And the analytic people. And my question would be the same one I just raised a minute ago. I would say, why did Gallen have a down year? Tell me what the science says in terms of what his mechanics were this year, how the arm came out, where the release point was, the arm speed, the angle, the deception. Give me all the physical things compared to when he was pitching well and tell me what the difference is. Number two, if I was engaged with him, I would ask permission to get an MRI on the shoulder and the elbow to make sure there is no issues there and to make sure that there's no issues anywhere else and make sure it's not a medical situation. And I think when I got the results of those two things, I would be able to make a decision. I wouldn't care as much about if it ended up being some pressure on a free agent year. That wouldn't bother me at all. I've talked to Zac Gallen in the past. I watched him start an all-star game. I believe in him, knows how to pitch, love the command when he's on. But you got to answer me the other questions because when you have a down year and the stuff also goes down, it's not just the results, it's the stuff was down. I need to know what it was. I need the pitching people to tell me that it was pitch selection or it was a leg kick or it was a move to the side of the rubber or he was having family problems or he's having finance problems. I need to know something so that I can understand it because I can't go forward and pay him what he was prior to this past year unless you give me those answers so I can feel comfortable that he can go back and be the guy that he was a year ago.
Reading the free agent market, still on Gallen. Is he the ugly duckling of the free agent qualifying offer people and he's just in a bad spot? I know all the things you just mentioned. This stuff went down. Yeah. His results weren't there. But this is a guy, like I said, that was a 9-figure pitcher, locked, guaranteed, coming into this year. The qualifying offer every year has a victim. Is he the victim of it this year, or is this just a circumstance of what happened on the field?
Yeah, I think he's going to do okay because another Boris client a year ago, I didn't think had any chance of getting the qualifying offer, and Nick Martinez got it from the Reds and got paid over $20 million. His representatives are so good that I think he'll at the very least be able to get a 1-year deal at the qualifying offer. I believe that'll be there. I don't think he'll have to do a Nick Pivetta deal that the Padres ended up doing, and Pivetta basically lost his shirt over the decision not to accept the qualifying offer. I don't think that's the case here. I think he's going to be fine. I just think it's going to have to be a short-term deal with an opt-out.
I want to talk about one more guy, one of buddies of mine, Mean Gene Suarez, Eugenio. At Reds Fest, I was at 2 weeks ago, and I'm like, talking to some guys, I said, he'd be a good fit over there. Bring him back to Cincinnati. Have you ever heard any talks with Cincinnati and other teams as well? Because this guy can hit some homers. And I understand, he struck out a lot too, but he's a really good defender, and he's got some pop that he could bring to any team.
Yeah. So in terms of the Reds, I'm not sure of the fit. I guess he could DH maybe there, but certainly not going to play third when they have Brian Hayes there. I don't think he's going to play first over the young players. He could DH there. I think the best fits to me would be Boston, Pittsburgh, maybe even Seattle again, but Boston, Pittsburgh are the best fits. But there's not a market for him, and it's puzzling after 49 home runs. So I actually talked to a GM this morning on a team that's a non-contending team. And I said, why don't you sign Suarez since you have a spot for him that makes sense in the lineup and have a need? Why don't you sign him for the first half of the year, let him hit his 20 home runs in your ballpark, and then trade him at the deadline for a prospect? And his response to me kind of raised my eyebrows, right? He said, well, look at what he did last year. He was hitting 49 homers, and we got to the trade deadline, and there was no trade market for him. And Arizona barely got a decent return. So why would I want to spend the money for Suarez in the first half of the year for a fringe prospect that I trade for? And he said, I don't think the market's any better for him. Look at the free agent market right now for him. He's not getting hits. It's not like he's waiting for a better offer. He's got people kicking the tires, but they are not pursuing him for whatever reason. So, look, I think the fact that he's not a very good defender at third base with very limited range, hasn't played a lot of first base. So you're looking at a DH that can play a little third, and maybe you could put him at first kind of situation. But the market, believe it or not, because it's hard to fathom, but a 49 homer guy just doesn't have the market right now. You know, Boston's worried about the defense. Pittsburgh I don't think wants to spend much money anymore after what they've already spent this offseason. So I find it fascinating where he's at, but the market just hasn't been there. There's nothing imminent. He's not close to anything. And I think somebody should swoop in and take a chance on him. And your idea, Todd Father, of the Reds, if they wanted to DH him, certainly makes sense to me in that ballpark.
Mm-hmm. It's so crazy to me. 49 home runs, and you're getting crickets.
Yeah.
Seems like somebody's like colluding to. Anyway, I won't even go there. But I'm going to ask one last pitching question about your list.
Yeah.
Give me the most value on this list.
Chris Bassitt. Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah, I love Chris Bassitt. I don't think people realize how consistent he is year in and year out. He takes the ball, he makes 30 starts, keeps his ERA under 4. And this is going to be whoever gets him, this is going to be a quality sign. I keep thinking AJ Preller of the Padres is going to jump in and grab him, right? I mean, he desperately needs another starting pitcher there. The only thing really they've done this offseason is Michael King. I think he would be a perfect fit pitching half his games there in San Diego in that great weather at his age. But I think he's going to be a real value because he's consistent. No, he's not a 1, 2, or 3, and probably at this stage of his career, he's a 4. But I can count on 30 starts, and that is so important, as you guys know.
I want to switch gears again here. Andrew McCutchen, I know you've seen this whole situation, and, social media is a really beautiful thing, and it also can be a detriment too as well. They talk about legacy. How some fans asked Cherington Ben Cherington about what about Andrew McCutchen? They talk about he had a 3-year deal, and that was just kind of going away party kind of deal. But a fan says pretty much listen, we've had him already. We were trying to win, and McCutchen comes back and has a nice little tweet about you're not going to tell me my story. So go into that a little bit and talk a little about what you think about this whole situation.
Yeah, so, I mean, number one, when you're running a franchise, you got to be sensitive to the people that have been the face of the franchise, right? And when you think of the Pirates, until Paul Skeens got there, Andrew McCutchen has been the face of the franchise basically over the last decade, right? Yes, he left to go to San Francisco and the Yankees, but he's been a Pittsburgh Pirate. He has been great with the front office. He's been great in the community. He has been the fabric of class and dignity representing the Pittsburgh Pirates on and off the field. Yes, agent decline has gotten him without a doubt. I think if you're running the Pirates and you get to September and you've made the decision you're not going to bring him back, you call Andrew McCutchen into your office and you say, look, you've had a great career here. We're going to move on from you. We've made that decision, and we want to give you the opportunity, if you want, to either retire or allow us to have an Andrew McCutchen day on the last day of the season and honor you in front of the fans. That's how you do it, right? And then when you get to the offseason, if you're going to sign him as your 26th guy, then go do a deal and get him signed as your 26th guy and make sure he's at Pirates Fest, right? You don't want to leave it in limbo. And the last thing you can't do with the face of the franchise is not communicate with the player and tell him exactly where you stand and why, and treat him with class and dignity, because Andrew McCutchen is a human being, for all he's done for Pittsburgh, deserves that. And by the way, also deserves to be given a job in their front office or on the field, on the staff, if he wanted it, when he's done playing. So I think the entire situation has been mishandled by Pittsburgh. I think they have time to correct it, and I hope that they do. I still think he's got something left in the tank. I think it's probably as an extra outfielder, part-time DH kind of role, but there's still a spot for him. And I think if he wants to play one more year, I think the Pirates owe it to him to give him one more year because he can still play.
And I can add on this. One of my good friends and somebody I saw make his big league debut from playing with him in AAA and seeing him get called up. He loves the city of Pittsburgh. He hasn't just played there. He loves the city of Pittsburgh. So my last question to you is another aging veteran who is looking possibly, we had some conflicting reports, Yu Darvish situation. What's your take on the whole Yu Darvish situation and how it was handled, how it's being handled, and how it should be handled?
Yeah, you hate for that kind of stuff to leak out where it doesn't originally come from a press conference from the player. When a player has $43 million left on the contract, don't really want a writer to leak out that he's going to retire. And quickly, Joel Wolf, his agent, jumped in and said, wait a minute. Now, these decisions haven't been made yet. Now, remember, as you guys know, his agent gets about $2 million of that $43 million left, right, with his percentage. So he's affected as well. There have been players, as you know, historically that have walked away from a lot of money. Gil Mesh of the Royals back in the day walked away from a huge contract, something most people don't do. Steven Strasburg got paid his full amount to walk away from, his team, the Washington Nationals. That was because of injury, which Darvish is injured right now too. So he got completely paid. Gil Mesh walked away from it. But the Players Association historically doesn't want players to walk away for the guarantee money. They don't want to set precedent for the rest of the players that it's okay to do that. So there's a little pressure there. There's a little pressure from the agent and the money he's going to make. And then there is is there a compromise in the middle where if you do walk away, maybe you pay me half of what's left and I'll walk away from the other. But the whole idea of having an article come out there, he's retiring, he's going to walk away from $43 million. It doesn't help anybody because if you're a fan like, oh yeah, he's walking away from that, we'll go sign Framber Valdez. We'll take the money and give it to Framber now. Yay. You don't want that, right? And then the other thing is, Darvish, is he really ready to not try to fight back from Tommy John and pitch again? So I think sometimes in today's social media, information gets out before you want it to get out. I always have told players in my career, don't say anything until you're ready to make a decision. Make sure you've talked to your family, the agent, the team, and work everything out, because there's a lot of people that get involved when you sit there and you want to retire and you've got $43 million still on the books.